get these lovely views, which I call the layers of time. But the thing that really put Chicago back on the map after the fire and as the city is regrowing, the World's Fair. In 1893, Chicago hosts the World's Columbian Exposition. It really put us back on the map, folks. 37 million people came to see what became known as the White City. It was this beautiful Greco-Roman inspired kind of style capital. 250 buildings, all temporary, save but for one. The structures were all made out of wood, plaster, and white paint, what they call staff. So these beautiful white neoclassical buildings, folks, they were all illuminated using electricity, and that was the first time ever that a cityscape had been illuminated using that technology. They actually used the Tesla model to achieve all of that, but I digress. The Greco-Roman style of architecture the fair was done in, we call it the Beaux-Arts. When you hear Beaux-Arts, it's French for the beautiful arts. You hear Beaux-Arts, think ancient Greece, ancient Rome. It was so beautiful, so well received, it found its way from the fair, right, into then conversations about the curtain walls of Chicago's skyscrapers. Curtain walls are the facades, right? They hang on the sides of the steel building. So you'll see skyscrapers that reference ancient Greece, ancient Rome. They're the ones that are the originals. They're not exceedingly tall. Then we shift into a different era, bring you all the way to present day. And then here is the kicker. The guy who designed the White City, the lead architect for the World's Columbian Exposition, Daniel Burnham. Burnham went down in history as being the father of urban planning. The first building I'll show you was designed by Daniel Burnham. It dates back to 1907, and what it'll do is it'll give you a glimpse into the time we're talking about, the world of a post-fire Chicago, neoclassical architecture, skyscrapers. This has all now become a global race. We'll talk later about how the last 15 years, the Eastern Hemisphere has been just dominating this industry. But here in Chicago, 1885, a 10-story tall building gave rise to what you see here today. To find the building that I want to start off with by Daniel Burnham, which features that Greco-Roman style, right, that Beaux-Arts, again, sitting there quietly since 1907. Go out there to the forward right-hand side. See beyond the trees, those two nondescript brick buildings. Those are each over 120 years old. That's the Vogue building and the Dixon building. They're lovely. Forget those buildings. Right? Yeah, obviously. Look just past them. Boom. A 3-story Roman colonnade up there at what's called the cornice line. The baseline of that building, not visible from here, folks, but that 3-story Roman colonnade you see there, those Ionic style columns, they are also at the base of the building. When you see these early skyscrapers that have that base, the shaft, and the cornice, we refer to that, folks, as the Chicago School. Chicago School skyscrapers were like a good story, beginning, middle, and end. They actually call it a tripartite configuration. So that curtain wall has that off-white, beautiful stone. The columns up top are not supporting anything. They're purely decorative. And what's great is we'll see, in addition to this Beaux-Arts, we'll see French, Gothic, Spanish, Italian-inspired architecture as well. And then as you go further in the distance, you travel further in time. Enter in now to the era of the roaring 20s, right? The market is hot, people are getting rich, prohibition, gangsters, bootlegging, speakeasies. Women are going to the polls for the first time, the women's suffrage movement. Art Deco structures captured the zeitgeist, or the spirit of the times. That limestone tower you see out there is our beloved Chicago Board of Trade, the CBOT. It's from 1930. You've seen it in the Batman film, The Dark Knight. For all you 80s kids out there, first of all, what's up? You might remember the CBOT from The Untouchables in 1987. The 80s. Art Deco structures, folks, they accentuate their own heights with what are called ribbon windows. See there in the middle, they kind of draw, you're at the top of the structure. They have elegant setbacks. They get smaller towards the top. What's neat about that is that's actually the results of zoning laws. In 1923, the city decided to write this law that told developers, once you build to a certain height, you've got to reduce the mass of the building on top, so more sunlight comes into the city streets. Human beings built skyscrapers for 3 decades before some guys like, we're blocking out the sun. The CBOT, that was the tallest skyscraper in Chicago for 25 years. She's a mind-melting 45 stories tall. And the statue on top, this speaks to the World's Fair. The statue showcases how architecture is a conversation over time. The statue on top of the CBOT, her name is Ceres. She's the Greco-Roman goddess of grain. She pays tribute to the fact that the Chicago Board of Trade originally was a grains exchange. Now, shifting gears dramatically into the mid-century, go post-WW2, the 60s, the 70s, modernism, dark black boxes, right? You shift away from stone. These were the futuristic high-speed sports cars of their time. Modernism's all about office space, hence the boxes. That is the tallest skyscraper in Chicago. That's the 26th tallest building in the world. That is the 3rd tallest building in the Western Hemisphere, standing 1,451 feet in height. She's 110 stories tall. You know this building, you love this building. It is, of course, thank you, it's the Sears Tower, yeah. Willis is a company that literally nobody likes. Willis is the worst company conceived by man ever, and I wrote the letter. Shifting again to the right, dramatically, right? Now you're in the 90s. See how nothing about 311 South Wacker Drive over there looks like a dark box? You appreciate that after 3 decades of dark black boxes in the 80s, the 90s when that was built, and the 2000s, we talk about big architecture, big color, big material. They were like, you know what? 3 decades of dark black boxes, like, let's have some fun. So it was wild. 311 Wacker Drive, yeah, overdone to a boorish extent. It's got red and pink granite, glass and steel. The stone, the red and pink granite, that all came from Texas. What's up, Texas? No? Oh, okay. That was the quietest "yes, I'm from Texas" I ever heard. Please don't secede. You know, if you do, though, leave the grid and go. Now, let's bring you back to the Sears. I have more to show you. We get great views here of what was the tallest in the world from 1974 to 1996. Folks, here's how the Sears Tower was built. It's called bundle tube construction. Bundle tube construction, in this instance, is literally 9 separate structures, all in theory, by design, their own buildings, put together in a 3x3 configuration. Look up there. Only 2 of the 9 bundle tubes that make up that building go all the way to the very top, and smile and wave right now as you look up there. You might know this already. Maybe you've been, maybe you're going. There's people in those boxes up there on the ledge. They were just undoubtedly taking our photograph. We're all going to end up together forever, frozen in time in a cheap frame in somebody's den. How are you? Welcome. So the man who invented bundle tube construction, an ingenious engineer from Bangladesh, Dr. Fazlur Khan. Fazlur Khan worked with the lead architect with Skidmore, Owings & Merrill, or SOM, a man named Bruce Graham. Here's the kicker. See these 2 dark black boxes here to our left? See these corporate soul-crushing buildings? Yeah, they're from the 50s and 60s. These were designed by Bruce Graham. These are modern high-rises from the mid-century, designed by the guy who did the Sears Tower later. So Dr. Fazlur Khan would have seen Gateway Centers 1 and 2 here and say, hey, you know, let's take 2, add 7, call it 9, put them in a tree-by-tree configuration, stretch them into the sky. That's how they did it. These are more indicative of what you'll see when we talk about the Miesian black boxes. The father of this modern style, a man from Germany, Mies van der Rohe. They did his thing for 3 decades. He moved from Germany to Chicago in 1938. Got out just in time. As my historians all chuckle, I found you, I see you. I've got more terrible jokes just like that, don't worry. A lovely view here. You can see a lot. The brick dates back to 1914. Lovely clock tower on top, folks. That is one of 2 warehouses that are over there. They are massive. Go see them at Lake Street and Canal by Chicago's French Market. Daniel Burnham designed those warehouses, and again, they date back to 1914. Shifting to the right of the clock on the brick building, look at how overwhelming the Boeing headquarters is, right? Glass, stone, steel, color, shadows, texture, depth. 1990, Perkins and Will built the Boeing architectural spire on trains. Have switching tracks there, so there is no caissons. There's no foundation beneath that building. Those trusses on top are holding the building up above the tracks beneath. It's a cantilever system. You're hanging, suspending something. And I gotta do it quickly, and that's okay. Shift to your left. See these annexes that sit there at the extremities? Those are paws. We nicknamed the Daily News building the Sphinx building. Neo-Egyptianism, 1929, Halliburton and Root. Why Neo-Egyptianism? You may remember this, folks. In 1922, archaeologists found King Tutankhamun's tomb in the Valley of the Kings, ancient Egypt, right? His tomb had not been ransacked by grave robbers. This, like, blew the world's mind open. All the gold is in there. Americans are getting rich while the market is hot. They're watching gals go to the polls. They're drinking bootleg liquor at speakeasies, right? Watching Art Deco structures get built. That conversation of the archaeological find and kind of the spirit of that era, it found its way to conversations about architecture. That was amazing. Go see the Daily News building. A very famous poet and author used to work there, a man named Carl Sandburg. Sandburg once wrote a great poem about Chicago. Look it up later and read it. It is entitled Chicago. In that poem, though, 2 of this city's nicknames, the City of Big Shoulders and the Hog Butcher for the World, thanks to all the meat packing that happened here in Chicago in the back of the Yards neighborhood, which used to be the Union Stockyards. Buildings today, okay, they use glass and steel, shadows, fins, and blades. They achieve the same verticality with buildings today as they did back during Art Deco with the ribbon windows, but now we have what I've come to call shadow lines. What's neat about 150 North Riverside Plaza here is, one, it's brand spanking new. It sits on a 37-foot wide foundation, as that was all the space they had to build the building. Why was that? In Chicago, you legally got to have a river walk that ate up 40 feet of space on the water's edge. What do you think's on the other side of the building? Those inbound and outbound Metra and Amtrak trains. So you can't build into the tracks. You can lease the air rights from the railroad and build, say, a park above the lines. They did build a park on the other side. There is your river walk. And there's a 55-story tall building sitting on a 37-foot wide foundation. What's neat as well is the fins or blades that run vertically along the building. They're called spandrels. They pop in and out as they go. As we all watch our heads here at Lake Street, the spandrels popping in and out as they go vertically, folks, it creates this sprinkle-like effect. The building actually mimics the small waves on the Chicago River, and when the sun hits off of it, just glance over your left-hand shoulder if you wish, you can see how you get that kind of reflection off the building, just kind of how how the light reflects off the water. You can even see the river reflected off the base, which has steel beams, which within the V-shaped part there, folks, at 150, the steel beams in the V-shaped part, they are made of what's called G5 steel. G5 steel is not just my new nickname. It's worked out too well, actually. I had to scale it back last night. G5 steel happens to be some of the strongest steel manufactured on planet Earth. They make that stuff in Luxembourg. Now, here's another brand spanking new one. It's very monolithic. It stands there very proud, very tall. Again, the shadow lines that give you the verticality. If you go from the base of the building where you know that it's like tapered and kind of folding into itself, go vertically along the shadow lines. The pattern you see there at the top is the exact same pattern down here. So Wolf Point South by Pelly Clark Architects, it's actually mirroring itself top to bottom, right? Like if you flipped it upside down, it would still portray to you the same presentation, the same silhouette. And there are stainless steel wraps around the I-beams that are exposed there at the belly of the beast. Lovely properties here to come see these new buildings at Wolf Point. Make sure you put Wolf Point on your list of places to come. It's where a lot of Chicago's history is. I'll tell you more about that. People have been living here along these banks for hundreds of years, right? The Native Americans and the French, and then Chicago founded along these banks in 1833 when there were 300 folks living here. That's when we became a town. People now live here at Wolf Point still, right? That's a green glass structure from 7 years ago, brand new by BKL Architects. I point out Wolf Point West there, that luxury rental, as it has that lovely green glass. Architects like to use the green glass on the river especially. It mimics the color of the river water, which is green for two reasons. There's a clay bottom as well as two types of algae which grow down there. And as we mosey onto the North Branch, prepare to be amazed. To our forward left-hand side, these triangular-shaped buildings are from 1988. The shape is like that of the sail of a sailboat. These 4 units here at the Chicago River Cottages, they have private dock access. You know why? Because boating is life. Don't forget that. See the round windows? Those are just like porthole windows you'd find on a boat. And see that circular staircase? You'll find things like that inside of lighthouses. The reason why these cottages look like they're still under construction, folks, that's what's known as European industrialism. The guy who built them, that one's okay, but it's close. In 15 years, I've not been hit in the head by a bridge. Situations are different. The man who built the cottages, his name is Harry Weiss. Harry Weiss was a sailor. He served in the U.S. Navy. He loved to use the triangle, right, the sail of the sailboat, and all of his buildings do feature nautical themes. Get this. 3 of the 4 original purchasers of those units from 1990, they still own them today. They bought them for $350,000 or $500,000. They're 4 and 5 stories tall, respectively. Folks, the only one that ever sold a second time sold now 8 years ago. They bought it in 1990 for $350,000. Sold it then 8 years ago for $1.2 million. That's right. For all you youngsters out there, invest in real estate. All right, kids, once the bank owns your soul, you can really stretch your legs and live your life. Brought to you by Chase.
Good marketing.
They're in trouble lately. Yeah, good for them. Now, here to our left, there are 70 of these, 70, 4-story townhomes. Folks, this is Kinsey Park, getting into the Noble Square neighborhood, heading out to the West Loop, West Town, Ukrainian Village, etc. There are mid-rise and high-rise units here at Kinsey Park, but done early 2000s by Papa George Hames Architects. Get this, all 70 of these townhomes, they were purchased before they were built. Yeah, pre-construction pricing, put them at 1.2 back in the day, all purchased before they were built. They go right now for about 1.8, 1.9. And it's been decided by our guests that everyone loves that bridge house there to your left. All the bridge houses are different, and folks, they capture different styles of architecture. You'll see different styles that you're seeing in the buildings reflected in the old bridge houses, where bridge tenders back in the day used to swing these bascule trunnion bridges opened and closed all day, every day for cargo vessels which had the right of way. Speaking of that, here to the right, a brick building from 1909. River North, which I know you hung out in, is an old warehouse district, much like the West Loop and South Loop are, hang out in those neighborhoods as well. When you see the old brick buildings with the black balconies like you do there at the River Bank Lofts, that's a surefire way to know that people are now living in that building. You can go by the brick buildings and not think much of them, but you know, it kind of speaks to our past. Those are examples of what we call adaptive reuse projects. You gotta love them. They prove the point that not everything needs to get torn down. But not just about the buildings in Chicago, our lakefront, the river, the parks and gardens. Folks, our motto is that we are a city in a garden, and we believe the waterways should be open, free, and clear. So if you've had enough of the clubs, restaurants, and you've hung out at the hotel and you want to get down to the water, you're in River North. This is a lovely park here on the right. Welcome, welcome to Aaron Montgomery Ward Park. Named in his honor, a lot of us remember Ward as being one of the big catalog company giants here in Chicago. What a lot of folks don't remember about Aaron Montgomery Ward is that he and a small handful of others battled the city of Chicago in court for over 2 decades, using their own money to do so. They did this, folks, to preserve a certain parcel of lakefront property, which then politicians and developers could not wait to build upon. They actually said they hated Aaron Montgomery Ward for getting in the way of progress. That area of land they battled the city over went on to become Chicago's front yard. Millennium Park, Grant Park, Museum Campus, Maggie Daley Park. Yeah, it's the jewel in the crown when you consider the 26 miles of lakefront on beautiful Lake Michigan, the world's 5th biggest lake, the 3rd biggest of the 5 Great Lakes, wherein 20% of all the world's fresh water resides. And it's in your cocktails right now. It's delicious. So years ago, the city saw fit, of course, to make sure Ward had his own park. And then get this, built in 1912, that massive prairie-style warehouse you see out there past Chicago Avenue, that was a warehouse for Aaron Montgomery Ward. He just stored his wares in that building. It was one of several warehouses for several catalog companies that started here in Chicago, affectionately known today as 600 West Chicago Avenue. When that was built in 1912, that was at that time the world's largest poured-reinforced concrete structure ever built. Great example of adaptive reuse it is. People now live, work, play, dine, work out, party, vote at this building. My brother used to sell logistics for Echo. A good friend of mine once sold advertising out of this building. Back in the day when I was cool, I used to work at the yacht club up here. Yeah, it was cool when I worked there. It was known then as the Kingsbury Yacht Club. Jason renamed it. We don't talk. It's now called the River North Marina. Ugh. And prairie-style warehouses, right? They do what a Frank Lloyd Wright home would do with the horizontal lines created here with mostly brick. Yeah, it lets the building keep a low profile, right? It allows it to hug the earth. If you want to see a great Frank Lloyd Wright home here in Chicago, go down to Hyde Park, where U of C campus is, and go see the Roby House. Ufta Octaliba, the Roby House. Do go see that one if you're into Frank Lloyd Wright. Maybe take the Green Line 9 miles west outside Chicago to Oak Park, Illinois. So go to the Frank Lloyd Wright Museum. The L train. Yeah, if you can handle yourself and you're adventurous, enjoy the L. Now things shift dramatically up here. You've got what remains of the old Chicago Tribune Freedom Center, a manufacturing plant built by SOM in the 1970s. Note the kind of lack of windows. The idea was building a building back in the day, and for much of our history, you wouldn't want windows because no one in that building working would have wanted to then look out that window onto this formerly polluted, congested, filthy industrial artery. And not to call the building unattractive, but there's just not a whole lot happening. You wouldn't spend time, money, effort on a manufacturing plant built on the Chicago River back in the day. What's also nice about being up here is you can see that man-made channel off there to the right, which when that was dug, created this island. I want to welcome you all now. This is amazing. Welcome to Goose Island. Yeah. This is where the beer company gets its name from. That island got that nickname, folks, because the Irish immigrants who settled out there on that old, glowing, dangerous, loud industrial park, they used to hunt the geese out there to fulfill their protein needs. Why did a dangerous, glowing industrial park become an Irish enclave? You already know. That was due to the anti-Irish sentiment that existed in Chicago. Yeah, 1800s, as they arrived, they were told by Chicagoans, you got to go live in Little Hell. It was known then as Little Hell. Hell's Kitchen, right? A glowing, dangerous industrial park. If you grew up in Old Town, Bucktown, Wicker Park, your parents would tell you, don't get caught over there in Little Hell. Don't let your father find you over there. Before you feel too badly, though, for the Irish immigrants living in Little Hell, know this. During the 30 hours that the Great Chicago Fire ravaged this downtown and destroyed all that you see on our tour and then some, thousands of Chicagoans, as the flames came from south to north to evade the flames, to flee and save their lives, they all fled into Little Hell. For 30 hours, thousands of people were hunkered down there in Little Hell. They all survived. There were no casualties in Little Hell during the Great Chicago Fire. The fire spared Little Hell. Thank you, there it is, yes. That should give you pause, right? Like, hey, maybe sinning is the way to go after all. You're too kind, thank you. My parents hate that joke. My dad goes, worst joke ever, David. And then to make his point, he made me walk home from Mass that day. Yeah, no, it was 2.25 miles in my penny loafers. I lost the pennies. But that's just my 2 cents. So that one's designed to see if y'all would mutiny, if you just couldn't take it anymore.